Family, lean in for a moment, because I want to take you somewhere today. Whenever a nation watches the first year of any leader, emotions run high, opinions split, and conversations get loud. But the real question isn't just what happened in the White House. The real question is what happened in your house. Because God doesn't just work from the top down. He works from the inside out. Your destiny is not decided in Washington. It's decided in heaven. That truth hits differently when you slow down long enough to let it settle in your spirit. It reminds you that no earthly system, no election cycle, and no shifting political climate has the authority to define the ceiling of your life. Here's the hook. If God Himself is writing your story, you don't need permission from people to live it. Too many people walk around as if the outcome of their future hangs on the decisions of leaders they'll never meet. They stress, panic, argue, and divide because they've handed over emotional ownership of their destiny to institutions that were never designed to carry that weight. But when you understand that your ultimate source isn't a government office, but a heavenly throne, everything shifts. You stop reacting to life like a victim of culture and start responding like a steward of purpose. Another hook worth grabbing. Identity drives destiny. If you think of yourself as someone waiting on a system to bless you, you'll wait forever. But when you see yourself as someone already empowered by God to move, build, grow, and rise, you stop waiting and start acting. Destiny is not something you stumble into by accident. It is something you walk toward with intention. And intention becomes powerful when it's anchored in a source bigger than the world around you. Your gifts, your calling, your vision, your potential, your resilience, your creativity, your fire deep inside. None of that was voted on. None of that is up for debate. You weren't shaped by Congress. You were shaped by the Creator. You weren't designed by a committee. You were designed with precision, foresight, and purpose. When you recognize that, you start living with a confidence that confuses people. They won't understand why you're calm when everything looks chaotic, why you're steady when everything feels shaky, why you keep moving forward when others expect you to break down. The reason is simple. You're connected to a source that never runs out. Here's another hook. If your purpose comes from God, then no human decision can cancel it. People can delay you, discourage you, misunderstand you, or even oppose you, but they cannot override what heaven has authorized. You don't need universal approval to walk in divine direction. Favor doesn't need a vote. Calling doesn't need confirmation from critics. Your assignment doesn't need a poll to validate its legitimacy. When heaven opens a door for you, it stays open, regardless of who tries to shut it. And here's the part most people never consider. Your destiny becomes unstoppable the moment you stop outsourcing responsibility for your life. You begin to grow when you stop saying, "They determine my future," and start saying, "God placed something in me that cannot be limited by them." That shift moves you from fear to courage, from passivity to action, from anxiety to assurance. You start making bold decisions. You start dreaming bigger. You start taking risks that align with purpose instead of retreating in the face of uncertainty. There will always be headlines, debates, changes, and challenges. But none of those things are bigger than the one who designed your future. The world may shake, but your foundation doesn't have to. The system may twist and turn, but your purpose doesn't have to wobble with it. When your trust rests in God, not government, you live from a place of clarity instead of confusion, strength instead of stress, and destiny instead of defeat. Hold this hook close. No one on earth holds the pen that writes your tomorrow. God does. And when that becomes real to you, you stop shrinking your life to the size of the world around you and start expanding it to the size of the calling within you. When we examine the first year of any leader, we must look beyond the surface, beyond the headlines, and the noise of daily controversy, and ask ourselves, what does this year reveal about character, vision, and leadership under pressure? America is not a nation of spectators. It is a nation of participants, called to discern the principles that will shape its destiny. In that first year, President Trump faced a storm unlike any before him. A maelstrom of criticism, skepticism, and relentless scrutiny from every angle imaginable. Yet, it is precisely in these moments, when the pressure mounts and the voices of doubt grow louder, that true leadership either rises or falls. And what I want you to hear today, my friends, is that the first year of Trump's presidency is a vivid illustration of what happens when a person refuses to be defined by the expectations of others and instead roots himself in a mission larger than personal ambition. Many Americans were stunned not because the first year was flawless, far from it, but because the leadership displayed a pattern of resilience and decisiveness that commands attention. The hooks are right there, embedded in the moments that challenged him the most. Moments that could have destroyed the average leader, but instead became a crucible in which his strategic mindset and determination were forged. Let me paint a picture for you. Policies were being questioned. Global relationships were under strain. Economic uncertainty loomed, yet action was taken with a focus that demanded Americans to watch and evaluate. To learn that leadership is not about popularity contests. It is about navigating the storms with clarity and courage. You see, many people equate leadership with comfort and consensus. But history shows us repeatedly that true leadership is born in the discomfort, in the clash of ideas and the necessity to make decisions that may not always win applause, but will leave a lasting impact. The American people, watching closely, were drawn into this tension and compelled to consider a deeper question. What does it mean to lead with conviction in a divided world? There is a spiritual lesson hidden here, one that speaks to us as individuals in our own lives. Just as a leader cannot please every critic or avoid every storm, we too cannot navigate our personal callings without facing opposition. The first year of Trump's presidency became a mirror reflecting the essence of what it means to persist in the face of criticism, to hold fast to vision when the world seems determined to see failure, and to act boldly while others hesitate. And this is where the story becomes particularly compelling, because it forces every American to confront their own leadership capacity, their willingness to stand, to speak, and to act when the stakes are highest. Hooks are everywhere if you are paying attention. The decisions that seemed reckless at first glance, the policies that sparked outrage, the alliances that shifted, all of these moments challenge us to recognize a timeless truth. Leadership requires courage. And courage often looks unsettling to those who prefer comfort and conformity. Americans, in observing these first 12 months, were stunned not just by policy outcomes, but by the demonstration of a mindset that refused to be immobilized by fear or public opinion. And there is a lesson here for every listener. The storms you face, the critics who rise against you, the obstacles that appear insurmountable, these are not signs to retreat, but rather invitations to step forward with determination. The first year revealed a leader willing to confront problems head on, to take risks, and to operate with an unflinching focus on what he believed needed to be done. And when we pause to reflect on this, we begin to see that leadership, in its truest form, is not about being understood or even liked in the moment. It is about staying anchored to purpose and principle, even when the noise threatens to drown your voice. Every choice, every bold step, every confrontation with doubt becomes a teaching moment, a hook that pulls us deeper into the understanding that leadership, courage, and vision are inseparable companions. The first year was a living example that while the world may be quick to judge, history reserves its applause for those who endure, those who act with conviction, and those who keep their eyes on the mission, despite the distractions of public opinion and controversy. When we consider the first year of a presidency, it's easy to get lost in the daily turbulence, the media narratives, and the partisan arguments. But if we step back and look with discerning eyes, we realize there is a deeper story. A story about priorities, focus, and the ability to navigate the complex web of national and global expectations. Key point 3 reminds us that leadership is not simply about responding to crisis, but about creating a vision that inspires, motivates, and challenges an entire nation to rethink what is possible. In that first year, President Trump demonstrated, whether critics wanted to admit it or not, an uncanny ability to seize the moment and make choices that reflected a larger purpose. This is where the hooks are. Right in plain sight, the policies implemented, the executive decisions made, the interactions with world leaders. All of them were part of a tapestry that told Americans a critical truth. Leadership demands clarity of vision and decisiveness in action. Too often, we measure leaders by popularity or comfort. But history teaches us that the ones who leave a lasting impact are those who remain steadfast in their priorities, even when the applause is absent or when opposition seems overwhelming. Think about the early decisions that sparked debate, the moves that appeared unconventional, the strategies that made observers scratch their heads. Beneath it all, there was a pattern emerging, a pattern of intentionality and purpose, a leader making deliberate choices in alignment with a vision that extended far beyond the immediate headlines. This is the kind of leadership that challenges everyone who watches to consider their own lives. Are we making choices based on pressure, or are we operating from purpose? The first year showed Americans that effective leadership is not about constant approval. It is about knowing what needs to be done and having the courage to act. Each decision, whether praised or criticized, serves as a hook, pulling us into a lesson about responsibility, initiative, and the weight of authority. When a leader is willing to make hard decisions, the public often reacts first with shock or resistance. But over time, the wisdom of intentional action becomes clearer. In observing these moves, Americans were confronted with the reality that leadership requires risk-taking, discernment, and a willingness to endure scrutiny while pursuing a greater goal. This first year reminded us that there is a spiritual principle at work. Those who are called to lead must act with conviction, trust their instincts, and remain anchored in principles that guide them even when circumstances are uncertain. It's easy to be swayed by public opinion, by the loudest voices, by the criticisms that echo in every corner. But the first year demonstrated that a leader with focus will not be paralyzed by external noise. Every executive order, every policy adjustment, every high-stakes negotiation carried with it a lesson for Americans. The pursuit of a vision requires courage, clarity, and the willingness to face adversity head on. And these hooks are everywhere, hidden in the moments that spark debate and controversy. They compel us to see that action taken with purpose is far more powerful than reaction driven by fear or desire for approval. The first 12 months offered examples that stretch beyond politics and speak directly to personal growth, leadership in our own communities, and the importance of aligning our actions with our mission. Americans were witnessing, sometimes reluctantly, how a focused leader can move through challenges, prioritize what matters most, and create momentum that others may not immediately understand, but cannot ultimately ignore. The events of that first year were a living demonstration that vision without action is empty, and action without vision is aimless. The combination of the two, executed with precision and courage, becomes a magnetic force that shapes outcomes, influences minds, and alters the trajectory of a nation. Every bold choice, every controversial move, every calculated risk became a teaching point, an invitation for us to reflect on our own leadership, our own commitment to purpose, and our willingness to endure scrutiny while moving forward. And in observing this, Americans were given a clear, unshakable message: the power of vision, clarity, and bold action can redefine expectations, challenge the status quo, and inspire others to rise above hesitation and doubt. One of the most striking aspects of observing a leader's first year in office is seeing how they handle resistance, opposition, and the relentless pressure that comes with responsibility. It is easy for anyone to act when circumstances are favorable, when applause is abundant, and when decisions are universally accepted. But the true test of leadership lies in moments of pushback, in the storms of criticism, and in the tension that arises when every choice is scrutinized. During Trump's first year, America witnessed a display of determination that caught many by surprise. A display that revealed how a leader's ability to persevere amidst adversity can fundamentally shift the trajectory of a nation. Hooks are everywhere in this narrative. The contentious debates, the bold policy announcements, the reactions of both allies and critics, all combining to illustrate a principle that transcends politics. Leadership requires courage under pressure. Too often, we look at public figures and assume that their success comes from flawless execution, but the reality is far more profound. Success is built on persistence, on the willingness to stand firm when every voice around you is clamoring to change direction, and on the clarity to recognize which battles are worth fighting and which require patience. In the first year, Americans were given a masterclass in this principle, whether they agreed with the methods or not. Every decision, from economic measures to international negotiations, became a moment for the nation to witness a leader navigating the tightrope between expectation and principle, between criticism and conviction. And there is a lesson here for every listener, every individual striving for personal growth. When opposition rises, when critics multiply, when the noise threatens to overwhelm, it is not the time to retreat, but the time to anchor yourself in purpose. Resistance is not a signal of failure. It is a signal of significance. The first year showed that a leader who understands this can transform obstacles into opportunities, criticism into clarity, and pressure into a catalyst for decisive action. Hooks appear in the moments that seemed most contentious. Policy announcements that shocked observers, decisions that drew national debate, confrontations that tested alliances, all of them demonstrating that courage under fire is not accidental, but intentional. This principle is applicable not just to leadership in government, but to every individual striving to make an impact in their community, their workplace, or their personal life. Challenges, when approached with intentionality and grounded in principle, become training grounds for resilience, shaping character, and strengthening resolve. The first year also illustrated another critical truth. The presence of opposition often amplifies the importance of the mission. When the world pushes back, it is a reminder that the path being walked is significant enough to matter. Americans were stunned because, in the face of relentless scrutiny, decisions continued to be made with a sense of purpose that transcended approval ratings, polls, and public sentiment. Every confrontation, every debate, every moment of pressure became a hook that drew the nation into a deeper understanding of leadership. It is not the absence of difficulty that defines greatness, but the response to difficulty. The courage to act when it is easier to remain silent. The discipline to pursue vision when distraction and criticism surround you. And the resilience to move forward when the odds appear stacked are qualities that resonate far beyond the political realm. And in observing these moments, people are challenged to ask themselves hard questions. When faced with pressure in my own life, do I retreat or do I stand firm? When confronted with criticism, do I allow it to paralyze me or do I use it as a mirror to sharpen my focus? The first year offered vivid examples, hooks that compel reflection, and lessons that extend into every area of life. It reminded Americans that leadership is forged in the furnace of opposition, that every trial carries a teaching moment, and that courage is not the absence of fear, but the commitment to act despite it. Every choice made under scrutiny, every bold step taken amidst resistance, served as a living demonstration that perseverance, vision, and courage are inseparable components of leadership that inspires, challenges, and transforms those who witness it. Leadership is most profoundly revealed not in moments of comfort or approval, but in moments of bold, sometimes unpopular action that demands conviction and clarity. In the first year of President Trump's tenure, we witnessed a series of decisions that startled many, ignited intense debate, and yet reflected a deeper principle that often goes unnoticed. The willingness to stand for something greater than immediate popularity. This is the essence of key point 5. Understanding that effective leadership requires the courage to make difficult choices while keeping your eyes fixed on long-term outcomes, not the fleeting approval of the crowd. Hooks are everywhere in this story. The headlines that screamed controversy, the critics that predicted disaster, and the unexpected results that challenged conventional wisdom. For many Americans, these moments were shocking, not because the actions were inherently good or bad, but because they revealed a leader who refused to be constrained by fear of judgment. True leadership is rarely about playing it safe. It is about identifying the most important priorities and committing fully to them, even when the path forward is fraught with uncertainty. The first year showed Americans that a leader who operates with clarity of purpose and determination can shift national conversations, influence global dynamics, and inspire followers to reconsider what is possible. Every executive decision, every policy initiative, every negotiation carried with it lessons about discipline, focus, and the power of persistence. And here is the hook. The most transformative moments often appear controversial at first glance because they challenge the status quo, disrupt comfort zones, and force observers to confront uncomfortable truths about what must change. For a nation accustomed to incremental progress, the first year of bold actions served as a wake-up call. A reminder that leadership demands courage, resilience, and a willingness to accept scrutiny as part of the process. It is a lesson that resonates beyond politics into every realm of life. Whether in business, community leadership, or personal development, progress often requires actions that provoke debate, elicit skepticism, and invite criticism. The first year was filled with such hooks. Decisions that many believed would fail, strategies that defied conventional wisdom, and initiatives that tested both supporters and detractors. Through it all, one principle remained clear: effective leadership is rooted in vision, and vision requires the ability to act decisively, even under pressure. Americans witnessed that the path to lasting impact is rarely smooth or uncontroversial. Those who aspire to make a difference must be willing to stand, even when standing is uncomfortable, and to act, even when the consequences are uncertain. The first year revealed a leader who embodied this principle, demonstrating that persistence, courage, and strategic thinking are not just admirable traits, but essential requirements for anyone seeking to influence change. Every controversial decision, every calculated risk, every bold step became a teaching moment, an invitation for reflection and emulation. Hooks appeared not only in policy outcomes, but in the manner of execution, in the willingness to confront opposition head on, and in the clarity of focus that refused to be distracted by external noise. Leadership in this context is a demonstration of faith in purpose, a commitment to mission over momentary popularity, and a readiness to endure criticism as part of the journey toward meaningful results. Observers could not ignore that the first year was a vivid illustration of how action, paired with principle, can redefine expectations, shift perspectives, and challenge others to rise to higher standards. The energy, tension, and debate surrounding these actions drew attention precisely because they illuminated a truth that applies to everyone. The road to influence and transformation is never easy, but the impact of courage, vision, and decisive action is undeniable. Every choice, every controversy, every strategic move became a hook that pulled Americans into reflection about what true leadership looks like. demanding the recognition that lasting impact requires more than intention. It requires bold execution, unwavering focus, and the stamina to persist when scrutiny is intense. When examining the first year of any leader, one of the most revealing aspects is the demonstration of strategic thinking and the ability to anticipate challenges before they arise. It is easy to react to circumstances as they unfold, but true leadership lies in the capacity to see beyond the immediate, to envision the long-term implications of decisions, and to position a nation or organization in a way that leverages opportunity while mitigating risk. The sixth key point of the first year of President Trump's presidency highlights exactly this principle: the power of foresight, planning, and intentional action in shaping outcomes that leave observers stunned. Hooks are present at every turn. The executive decisions that seemed abrupt but were part of larger strategies, the negotiations with foreign powers that demanded both patience and resolve, and the domestic initiatives that challenged conventional wisdom but pointed toward measurable goals. Many Americans were initially shocked because these actions were unexpected, but upon closer inspection, they reflected a pattern of deliberate thought and calculated risk-taking, qualities that are essential to effective leadership. Leadership is rarely about following a script written by others. It is about creating a path when no path exists, about taking steps into uncertainty with confidence in principle and clarity of vision. The first year revealed that a leader willing to anticipate challenges, prepare for opposition, and act decisively can alter trajectories in ways that are both visible and profound. Every policy, every negotiation, every strategic initiative served as a hook, drawing attention to the discipline and foresight required to lead successfully in a complex environment. Americans were challenged to observe not only the outcomes, but the process behind the decisions. Learning a critical lesson: effective leadership is the intersection of insight, timing, and action. In watching these moments unfold, it became clear that foresight is not about predicting every obstacle, but about understanding patterns, evaluating risks, and positioning oneself to respond with confidence and effectiveness. The first year provided a series of examples that illustrated this truth. Choices that appeared risky in the short term often had implications designed to yield long-term impact, demonstrating the importance of thinking several steps ahead. Hooks were embedded in the tension created by these decisions. The pushback from critics, the skepticism from allies, the media scrutiny. But within that tension lay the undeniable power of a leader who acts strategically rather than reactively. This principle extends far beyond politics into every aspect of life, because whether one is managing a business, guiding a team, or navigating personal goals, the ability to anticipate challenges and respond with foresight is a hallmark of success. The first year of leadership provided a blueprint for Americans to consider their own lives. Where can foresight guide your choices? Where can strategic thinking prevent pitfalls? And where can you act decisively in alignment with long-term objectives even when immediate approval is absent? Observers were stunned because the decisions revealed a depth of planning and a willingness to move boldly in the direction of intended outcomes, even when the steps were unpopular or misunderstood. Every action, every executive decision, every negotiation became a hook, compelling reflection and understanding of the principle that leadership is most effective when guided by insight and executed with precision. The pattern was clear: those who anticipate, prepare, and act with strategic intention create momentum that transforms potential into reality, obstacles into opportunities, and uncertainty into measurable progress. The first year demonstrated that foresight, planning, and strategic execution are not abstract concepts. They are the foundation of leadership that inspires confidence, challenges assumptions, and reshapes expectations. The hooks were everywhere, in the moments of surprise, in the decisions that defied conventional wisdom, and in the results that revealed the hidden power of calculated, intentional action. Observing these examples, Americans were invited to consider a profound lesson about the essence of leadership. Success is rarely accidental. It is the product of insight, preparation, courage, and the discipline to act decisively even when the path forward is uncertain. Every challenge faced, every opposition encountered, and every outcome achieved became a living illustration of how strategy paired with courage can stun, inspire, and ultimately reshape the course of events in ways that few anticipate, but all can recognize.